Hello and welcome along to episode 2 of the LSL Podcast. I'm Derek McKenna and I'm joined by Andy McNulty. How are you today, Andy?
Good, Derek. Thanks for having me on again.
Excellent. So, Andy, on today's show, we have a few things to cover. We begin by doing a roundup of all of the intermediate division games this past weekend. I know you also have a little segment you want to input there on teams with 100% records in the Leinster Senior League, so I'm looking forward to that. We have an interview with the LSL Chairman Dave Moran. He tells us a little bit about his background with the Leinster Senior League and also goes a little bit in depth on the insurance policy for players with the Leinster Senior League as well. So that's a good interview there. We'll touch on the FAI Junior Cup 5th round draw, which was made this week. And we also have an interview with the registrar of the LSL, Dave Lawlor, who talks to us about the upcoming transfer window in the league. And we'll also have some shout outs for teams towards the end of the show today with things that are coming up, events and so forth. So before we kick it all off, Andy, the first episode of the LSL podcast was a great success. I just looked up the stats there about an hour or so ago, and the first episode had 1,759 listens over the past week, and that was really excellent. That was across Spotify, YouTube, and Podbean, and it was also up on iTunes for the last couple of days as well. So it's been a great success, and the feedback has been brilliant.
Incredible, Derek. Yeah, it's been something else. I've been getting messages from everyone across the league wishing us the best of luck and that the first episode was well received. So, yeah, really, really positive for us. Obviously, I know we were a bit nervous stepping into it last week, but yeah, it all went well. Some of the officials from the Leinster Senior League got in touch and yeah, really, really positive stuff. So hopefully we can kick it on and keep going.
Yeah, I was really happy. Obviously, we both got a lot of messages, individual messages off people and people just commenting in general. But a lot of people reached out to me looking to get involved in the podcast as well and offering themselves up for interview or to contribute. So that was great. And I'll put it out there again. Anybody who wants to get involved, feel free to reach out to myself or Andy on Twitter. You can get me at Derek McKenna. And Andy, you are at the bear _1. Am I right there?
Yeah, the bear _1. That's it.
Perfect. So yeah, like I said, anybody who wants to reach out and get involved, or if you have any topics that you feel would be good for us to cover on the podcast, again, send us a message on Twitter. To kick off today's show, like I said, Andy, I have looked at the results over the weekend across all the top 4 divisions. I know we said last week when we kind of started this podcast that we're not just going to focus on the top divisions. So the plan is going forward to start covering more, but we won't be able to cover every single division every week. So we're focusing on the top 4 this week. So on Friday night in the senior division, Malahide had a good 2-0 win over Newbridge Town. And that win moved them up to 3rd place in the table. Garrett Craven scored a tap in early on, and Glenn Daly scored from a corner about half an hour in. It was a 2-0 win. Have you seen anything of Malahide this year so far, Andy?
Very impressed with them, Derek, I have to say. Yeah, very impressed with them. I've seen them maybe 3 or 4 times this year, and you know, they've probably been the better team in most of those games. They've some really exciting players, and they're playing really good stuff at the moment.
Yeah. The other game on Friday night was Liffey Wanderers and Edenderry, and I put it out there on Friday. There's a load of great games on Twitter. I put it out there, and John Young, the former manager of Liffey, says it's going to be a cracking game, and he wasn't wrong. It ended up 3-3. It was a night of high drama. As Edenderry Town, they claimed a point late on. Liffey had taken an early lead through Sam Simpson, but Edenderry responded. They had second half goals from Liam Donnelly and Sean Moore, so they went in front. And then Liffey struck back again through Sam Simpson. So it was they were gone into a 3-2 lead with Simpson, should I say, getting his hat-trick, but Edenderry got a deserved draw towards the end. About 4 minutes from the end, they snatched an equaliser through Aaron McDonald. So 3-3 draw. Have you seen much of either of those teams?
Just in our own games. No, I haven't seen them. I haven't been able to see them outright just as they've played against us. But again, two very tough teams. We for the first 60 minutes of the game in Liffey's there a couple of weeks ago, it was a tough game for us. I think they
Oh,
missed the penalty at
was it?
a really key stage.
That was the one that was, it was 3-3 and then it finished 6-3. Was that it? Was 3-3
Yeah,
with about 10 minutes to go, was it?
yeah. Look, they had a couple of men sent off late on, so the scoreline probably doesn't reflect how the game went. To be honest with you, we were really good on the night. Now I have to say, but it was just like, as I said, Liffey's missed the penalty at a really key moment in the game, and it could have and probably should have changed the way the outcome of the game. And yeah, look, it was just one of those games, and they'll probably be cursing themselves. They look back at the result, but it's the way it goes. You're almost guaranteed goals down in the cage, down in Rings End every single game.
Yeah, definitely. So the both of those sides Liffey's are in 7th place in the league and Edenderry in 8th, so they're not going too badly. And as always, it's a competitive division and it's early doors. Yeah. In the senior one, you had, who had we got on Friday night? You had Home Farm went into 2nd position on the table with a 2-1 win over Glebe. The Home Farm goals were scored by Owen Murray and Prizeman on the score sheet as well there. And then Patsy Y were playing League Slip. They welcomed home. The lad who manages League Slip. Remind me of his name. Sorry, it slipped me my head. He used to manage Patsy Y or play for Patsy Y.
Ed Saul.
Ed Saul. Sorry, yeah, I do. So Ed obviously welcome back to Patsy Y. They played out a 1-1 draw. Pats took the lead through the evergreen Thomas Dunn, but Jamie Doyle scored an equaliser straight from a corner. And apparently they could have won it later on. Doyle hit the crossbar late. I think it was about 5 minutes to go or something like that. So, but all in all, a fair result draw there. Senior 1A, don't have a lot of information. Basically, when I was looking at to get this information, Andy, I was looking through Twitter and looking through the LSL live score hashtag. So any teams that kind of put up the results and the goal scorers, this is where we're getting this information from. In the Senior 1A, Arklow beat Drumcondra 2-1, but I've no goal scorers there. St. John Bosco beat Dublin Bus. Apparently that was a very tight game. That could have went either way, but goals from Colm Dunn and Peter Hines won it for Bosco. Bosco obviously won the 1B last season and kind of hitting a bit of form there now. And then the other game in Senior 1A was Inchicore Athletic 2-1 against Duboyne, and the goals were by Casey and Plunkett, according to their social media there. And then the Senior 1B, obviously I'd have a bit of an interest in the Senior 1B with Kilbarrack involved there. Rathout Harps and Corduff was a 1-1 draw. Sam Carroll had given the hosts the lead, but a last-minute header from Corduff, the bottom side, earned them a draw. In the big game of the night, I suppose, Hartstown, Huntstown, who were in 3rd, hosted Kilbarrack. Obviously, I'm delighted. We had a big win, a 1-0 win, but kind of a big win in the sense that it was a massive 3 points. It puts us on 27 points, top of the league, and the goal was by Aaron Humphreys. And anybody who wants to watch the highlights of that game, they're over on the Striker Online Facebook page. Terry Healy videoed the highlights there, so you can watch the highlights of that one on Striker Online. And then the other big game on the Friday night, Castleknock and St. Kevin's. That was kind of, Castleknock have been playing really well this season. Kevin's knew a win would put them into 2nd place, and they won away from home 3 goals to 1, and the goals were by Jordan Cromwell and Josh Payton. Jordan Cromwell got 2. Again, those highlights are available on St. Kevin's Facebook page if you want to go back and watch and have a look at the goals. Some great goals on there as well. So yeah, a good kind of Friday night of action. And then leading into Sunday. Andy, your game, obviously, Bluebells was called off this morning. What's going on with that pitch, Andy?
I know, it's literally, Derek, I put a picture up on Twitter earlier on for anyone that wants to see. It's the pitch is in the best condition it's ever been, and it's been called off 3 weeks in a row now, I think. And it's literally a section that is the size of maybe 2 meters by 2, right over in the far corner flag, and it just will not drain for us. So in fairness, it's the right call to call it off. It's very unsteady underfoot. So
yeah,
but it's just breaking our hearts at the moment. It's breaking our hearts. We were out doing a bit of work on it today, and hopefully it'll be right for the next couple of weeks. I think we're actually fixtured away for the next weekend. So it might give it another week's rest. Hopefully, if the rain holds off,
Yeah, I wouldn't bank on that too much though. It's kind of
disaster.
we're in the season now, aren't we? There was obviously big games in the senior division today. Probably none more so than Colester against St. Moctus. St. Moctus
Yeah, big.
unbeaten, obviously, but a big win for Colester to hand Moctus their first league defeat of the season. Stephen Chambers with the first from a corner. Again, another corner that went straight in, which seemed to be a bit of a theme this week.
We
Kenny
won't
Carr
mention that.
equalised.
We won't mention that. One of them was against me last week.
Oh, was
Yeah.
So yeah, Kenny Carr equalised for St. Moctus, and Chambers sealed the win with a cracking free kick, I believe. Stephen Chambers, smashing player. We played them in the Intermediate Cup this year. They obviously knocked us out, and he scored some absolute belting free kicks. I think he scored a hat-trick in that game. But he's a smashing player, and he's obviously having a great season.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah, he was involved in the Leinster senior squad and played against him now for a number of years. He was actually before that with Liam Kelly, and yeah, he's always one that can pull a goal out from distance. But not only that, he knows how to play football as well. He's good on the ball, and he has an eye for a pass as well. He's very dangerous when you're playing against him in the middle of midfield. He generally is the focus of most team talks when you're playing against them, so I suppose it's a credit to himself that he kind of consistently performs like that.
Yeah, and I think that result, I'm trying to look at the Leinster Senior League tables. I'm not sure if they've been updated yet, but I think that result moves them up to third place in the table above Malahide. I could be wrong on that, as I said.
Yeah, we'll do.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, a great win, obviously, and other results which we'll talk about in a moment as well. Obviously, changing the structure of the top half of the table, but probably more so on the bottom half. Wayside beat Portmarnock 3-2, should I say, today. Philly Halligan, Paddy Bourne, and Graham Zambra with the third before. They were 3-0 up before Portmarnock pulled two.
I'm gonna have to correct you there because it's Ross Zambra because he'll be straight onto me. Graham plays for Bluebell, but Ross plays for. He'll be straight onto me if he hears that, so I have to correct you there. I'm afraid.
I do. Yeah, I stand corrected there. Ross Zambra with the third. And I seen you were slagging that it was a deflection, but the lads corrected you that it was a penalty he scored. So they were 3-0 up, but Portmarnock put up a fight. They pulled 2 goals back, but couldn't get a third to level it up, and Wayside took all 3 points there. So good result for Wayside. Another huge game today. Top of the table clash, Bangor and local derby as well. Bangor against Crumlin. I was looking at this one earlier on, and obviously Crumlin have had a kind of a patchy start. They've won 4 and they'd lost 3 towards today. But I had a feeling that today was their day. But obviously, what do I know about football? Because Bangor went out and beat them 2-1. The goals were scored by Jordan Andre. I think I got that right, with both of Bangor's goals. I'm not sure who got Crumlin's one, but so that's Crumlin's 4th loss in 8 games. They've had a really kind of mixed bag, 4 losses and 4 wins. But you have to kind of give it to Bangor, give them credit. They're having a crazy good season, which I don't think many people would have predicted. So I'm not sure. Like you may know a little bit more, Andy. Have they got some good players in this season as opposed to last season? Or what's changed there?
I think it was just, to be honest with you, Derek. It seems like they were in a bit of transition for a couple of years there. Most of their experienced players have sort of kind of taken a backward step now, and they've a lot of young lads there. And we played a unbelievable 4-3 game there in the Red Cow a couple of weeks ago, and I have to say they were very unfortunate not to take something out of the game, and I was very impressed with them. That was the first time I'd actually seen them all season, but I'm hearing good reports. They play to their strengths. They've got a really good start. They've obviously John Scott, who's the manager, knows the league inside out now. He's there. I don't even know how many years he is now, and probably too long in his eyes. But he is he has a team there now. I think that have well and truly settled. A couple of young lads. A couple of experience is always good in the team, but they're doing really well at the moment. Yeah, they're flying, and they've a really workmanlike team. The lads up front don't give defenders much time on the ball, and they're brilliant. I have to say in areas of the pitch.
Yeah, and I think like there's obviously when you look at the kind of top 6 or 7 of the senior division, it's still wide open. Like it's still so early. But Bangor have a game in hand over Mocktus now. So Bangor are on 22 points, Mocktus on 21. But Bangor have that game in hand as well, or Bangor GG as I should call them since the merger this year. So potential to open up a little bit of a gap there from themselves and Mocktus. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's very interesting. The other game in the senior division was Orchard against Maynooth. So Maynooth took a 2-goal lead with Connor Dunn and Conor Foley scoring the goals, but Orchard pulled one back from the spot in 61 minutes and got an equaliser in 75 minutes. Again, I'm not sure who got the Orchard goals. It wasn't on their social media, but kind of a 2-all draw there. And again, Orchard are down in 12th place at the moment, so obviously they'd welcome the point, but they would have hoped to kind of get 3 points there to start moving up out of the relegation zone. But it is very early in the season. It's probably way too early to be talking about relegation. The senior one division, or sorry, senior one division games today. Newtown Rangers lost at home to Skerries. Again, I didn't get the Skerries goal scorers. The other games there were Glenville had a good win against Greystones. Sean Whelan and Ryan Hughes and Keith Weeks with the goals for Glenville 3-2 win. Lucan had a 3-0 win against Swords. Andrew Bracken, Gareth Matthews, and Dara Doherty with the goals there. UCD and Kilnamana was a 0-0 draw. Kilnamana are having a good season as far as I'm aware, aren't they?
They are, but they'll be disappointed with that result today, Derek, to be honest
Yeah,
with you, because the 3 teams above them all picked up wins, Hearts, Home Farm and Lucan,
yeah,
and that'll just, although Kilnamana have a couple of games in hand, that'll just create a little bit of a gap that they wouldn't have liked to have to chase there just before Christmas. But look, they've started well. I think they're on back-to-back promotions, so to be at chasing the top pack after 2 successive promotions, they'll be more than happy. Don't get me wrong, but they'll also be disappointed that they've let them get that little gap above them. So they'll be gunning to get to change that over the next couple of weeks.
yeah. The other big result, and obviously having a great season, Sacred Heart Firehouse Clover, which is a bit of a mouthful since the merger last season. But they had a great 5-1 win against Tullamore Town today. That was goals. Carl Wynn got 2. Nika Avazadze, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. Avazadze, and Michael Fox and Carl Forsyth with the other goals there. So the Clover are absolutely flying. They're unbeaten all season.
Yeah, they've a very experienced team there, Derek.
Yeah,
They've basically gone and sort of acquired a number of players that have played in the top division for a number of years, and yeah, look, I think they'll be there or thereabouts. I'd be very surprised if they didn't go up with the team that they have.
yeah, big time. So let me see. Yeah, they're all going to be in the mix. It's always an interesting division every year for those teams vying for promotion up to the top division, and it's always really competitive. Obviously, you can't you look at the top 4. Sacred Heart Fairhouse Clover, you have Lucan United, you have Home Farm, and you have Kilnamana. But then just below them as well, you have the likes of Pat CY, you have League Slip, Glenville. There's so many good teams in that division. So I'm looking forward to keeping an eye on that throughout the season. It should be exciting. Senior 1A, I think there was one game on today, but I couldn't unfortunately find the result for it. It was TEK against Dublin University, and both sides I don't think have the best social media presence, so it was difficult to find that result. But I'm sure if it was on, we'll find out in due course. But I don't know whether you heard anything yourself, Andy, about that one.
No, I haven't heard anything, but I was scouring through to try and pick up some results earlier on. But again, just sort of to reiterate, if clubs are active on social media, if they could use the LSL live score hashtag, and that's sort of how we get our results. So if you can continue to do that, some clubs are great, some clubs not so good. So if we can kind of build that culture, it'd be great.
Yeah, I think obviously there's certain clubs that are amazing, and we've spoke about them before. The likes of the St. Moctas, the Airfields, the kind of there's loads. There's too many to mention, and I'm not going to name them all. Who give you blow by blow updates of everything that's going on in the game, and that's brilliant. But if your club can't do that, even posting through the final score and your goal scorers to the LSL live score hashtag is it's a great help for people around the league trying to trying to find out what's been happening. Couple of big games in the Senior 1B as well today. Good results as well for Mid Sutton Sports Link. They beat Pegasus St James Athletic away from home. The Mid Sutton Sports Link goals by Marco Vijanovic. I'm struggling today with these names, Andy. I think it's Marco Vijanovic, and Jake McQuillan. And it's 4 league wins on the bounce for Mid Sutton Sports League. And fair play to the lads who messaged me today, let me know with the scorers. Ardmore Rovers, who are up vying at the top end of the division as well, having a good season. They had a good 3-2 win against Broadford. 2 early goals from Paul Malloy gave them a nice lead, but Broadford got it back to 2-2. But then Malloy sealed his hat-trick early in the second half to claim all 3 points for the Bray side. So I think that puts them up to, just checking now, they're definitely up to third in the table as far as I can see. Could even be up to second.
I think that might slot them above Kevin's maybe.
Yeah, and they still have a game in hand over Kilbarrack as well. So if that puts them onto 11 games with 23 points, they win their game in hand. They're on 26 points, 1 point behind Kilbarrack. So, and we've had a good kind of Kilbarrack and Ardmore. They beat us over there in Bray, and a couple of weeks later we beat them at home. So those games are out of the way. But they're having a really, really good season this year. So and they're a tidy enough side. I was surprised by them when we went out there. I think the whole of the Kilbarrack team were surprised how well and comfortable they beat us out there. Obviously at home it was a different matter, but they seem to have a good side this season. So best of luck to them as long as
well, we actually faced them in the cup earlier on in the season, and we just scraped by it, to be honest with you. I think I'm trying to rack through my memory, but I don't think it was as easy a game. I think we might have taken them a little bit for granted, and we got through in the end. But it was a hard fought game in the end.
Yeah, so that division, the Senior 1B, I'm trying to kind of remove myself from it in the sense that obviously I have a vested interest in Kilbarrack, but it's shaping up to be a good kind of title run in. Obviously, we're at the top at the moment. Kevin's are looking really strong at the moment. Ardmore and Airfield are starting to pull a kind of a run of results in as well. Hartstown are still up there as well. Look, there's a lot of Castleknock are a very good side as well. There's so many good teams in that division, so it'll make for an exciting second half of the season.
I think it's the same. I think it's the same across the board, Derek. Yeah, sorry, I think it's the same across the board. Any of the divisions in the top 4, and I'm sure it is across the other leagues, which we'll get into in future episodes. But it's just that they're so tight. It's anything can happen. All it takes is a couple of results to go your way, and you're either at the right end of it or the wrong end of it, and it can sway the league so quickly over the course of 2 or 3 games. I'm just looking again there, like Kilbarrack. Yeah, they're in a nice position, but 12 games in, there's an awful lot to play for, and those chasing pack will want to get to as close to them as possible.
Big time. And kind of just mentioned there actually Airfield, who have had a bit of a patchy start to the season. I think a lot of people have expected a lot more from them coming up from the Major Sunday last season. They'll admit themselves they've had, they've played 10, won 5, lost 3, drew 2. So it's kind of a little bit of a patchy start, but they had a massive win today, 7-0 against Larkview, which is, again, it's one of those results that you're like, how did that even happen? Because Larkview are a very, very solid side. When we played them out there, we literally scraped past them, I think, with a last-minute goal. Really, really tough side to beat. But I think they just had an off day today, and I think they put up on their own social media that just, it was one of those days where everything Airfield did hit the net.
Yeah. Which happens, Derek. It happens across the leagues, as I said already. It's mad. The crazy thing about these leagues is there's so much to play for. I think that's we'll probably speak about it at a later stage in another episode, but is the introduction of the 3 up, 3 down in most divisions has improved the leagues across the board.
Big time.
100%. And credit to whoever made that decision. It was what was needed. It's making every game right till the end. How many times have you seen the title being clinched in the last game, or relegation, or whatever it may be? It's going down to the last games every single season. I've seen it for a number of years. It's not just in the top divisions; it's right down across the board. It's what makes for, I suppose, an entertaining league across the leagues.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I'm a huge fan of that decision. I think it came in about 3 years ago, would it be 3 or 4 years ago? And it's
about that, yeah.
it's definitely livened up every division, because I'm going back a couple of years now, but there's been times where there's been teams sitting in 6th place and they could either get promoted or relegated, and there's only 5 games less in the season. Like it's been that close for some kind of in some divisions, so it's a great thing to see. The other kind of notable results that I just wanted to call out over the weekend, outside of the senior intermediate divisions, in the Leinster Junior Cup today, Holder Sheriff were knocked out by Baldoyle United 3-1 after extra time. Sheriff went down to 8 men in that game, so and it went into extra time, but the champions knocked out, and the Baldoyle goals were scored by Jay Sheehan, scored 2, and Johnny Costello got the other. And then other kind of big notable results, I can't go through all the Leinster Junior results, but Usher had a win, Usher Celtic won 6-0, and Oliver Bond went through on penalties against Moyne, so a couple of big results there. But yeah, I think the big news is obviously the Holders Sheriff getting knocked out in round 2, which was a shock to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think a bit of a shaky start as well in the league. Look, they're kind of getting used to the league, aren't they? They've just come over in their first season, and it's going to take a bit. It's more challenging, as I said. They've come over for a reason, and obviously going out the Leinster Junior won't, or the FAI Junior won't help them, but it's one of those things where they're just going to have to come to terms with it really quickly. I know some of the other teams that have come across have kind of hit the ground running in the divisions that they've been allocated, but Sheriff just need to kind of they need to get stuff sorted really quickly.
I think the issue for them is they haven't actually played many games in the division. They've only played 3, and the other teams like Drogheda have played 10, Rush have played 8, but Sheriff have only played 3 games so far. So it looks like they haven't had a great start, but it's probably just due to the lack of games in the league. But I'm sure that'll change over the coming weeks, and obviously they play all weather. So
they've obviously still fantastic players, and they're not. You wouldn't rule them out whatsoever. They've that winning mentality, and they'll always look to win the games. But it's going to be very hard now to pick up. As I say, played 3 games. I'm just looking here now. Drogheda have played 10. So it's a lot of space to make up in such a short period of time. Bear in mind the weather, the Christmas period. They're going to be playing midweek games probably from March next year, so it's going to be tough on them, but hopefully they can get up and running. It'd be great to see them continue up the leagues.
Definitely. Okay, so Andy, that was kind of the roundup of the weekend's action. I know you wanted to touch on you've fair play to you. You put a great kind of spreadsheet together of teams who still have 100% records. So if you want to talk us through that, it was surprising for me to see that there was still teams out there, and still a few of them with 100% records.
Yeah, it was just something that I was putting together. For those that know me, they'll slag me over my spreadsheets. I love a good stat. So it was just, I stumbled across it, to be honest with you, Derek. I was just going through, I was putting a list of the teams together, and I noticed that there was still a few teams with 100% record, which I think going like in the middle of November is unbelievable. And look, again, I think it was sort of our own team that triggered that investigation. The Bluebell Major Saturday side are 7 out of 7. The Crumlin United under 19 team are 5 out of 5. Paul's Artane are 7 out of 7. And the Usher Major Sunday team are 5 out of 5. Now, and there's also Woodhazel there as well, which I think have to kind of get a special mention. They're up to 10 out of 10, which is an incredible start for the Premier 1 Saturday. So like unbelievable to still have an unbeaten record. Well, 100% record, never mind an unbeaten record, 100% record still coming into November, and they're closing in on December, going into the new year. If you could get that, if you could continue that, I think you'd be all right going in the league.
It would be interesting to see, actually, do any of them carry it through till after Christmas? So maybe we can keep an eye on this each
and I don't want to put the mockers on them. I don't want to put the mockers on them because normally it's commentators' course when you bring up this sort of stuff, but I hope they continue it. I hope it's a success for them throughout the season. It'd be unbelievable to keep going. Like Woodhazel, as I said already, at 10 out of 10 in the Premier 1 Saturday is incredible. 10 games, wins. is doesn't matter what division it is. It's an incredible achievement.
Definitely. Give a few honourable mentions there to other teams who perhaps haven't got 100% records but are still unbeaten. I'm gonna let me see. I think you have Malahide in there as well, don't you? And it's a couple of others.
Yeah, Malahide in the Major 1 Saturday. You've got Shelbourne in the under-19s, Home Farm in the Major 1 Saturday actually as well, who are a very good side. Francis in the 1B Saturday. Again, they've only played a handful of games, but still to get 5 or 6 games, without a defeat in those competitive leagues is a good achievement. It's a good start to the season. I think Francis are top of the league there at the moment. You've got Enniskerry YC still unbeaten, Premier 1 Sunday after 11 games. They're top of the league as well. Obviously, Sacred Heart Fairhouse Clover in Senior 1 Sunday, still unbeaten. There's a number of different teams that
I won't ask you to go through every one of them because there's a lot, but I think it's nice to give those an honourable mention. We'll leave it there on the 100% records, but we'll definitely check back in on that over the coming weeks and see if any of the teams keep up their 100% records beyond Christmas. Like I mentioned at the start of the show, we've an interview with Dave Moran, the chairman of the Leinster Senior League, to talk about his kind of involvement with the league and also the LSL's insurance policy. So we'll have a listen to that and then we'll chat about it after we come back. Dave Moran, chairman of the Leinster Senior League, thanks for taking the time to come on the podcast today.
No bother, Derek.
Dave, so we asked you on today to talk about the LSL's insurance policy for players, but before we get into that, it'd be good if we could, if the listeners could learn a little bit more about you. So just a couple of questions around yourself. How long have you been with the Leinster Senior League, Dave?
11 years, Derek. 11 long years. I left St James's Gate around at that time, and within 2 months I was in the league doing red cards and public liabilities. And that was a new thing with the FAI.
And what was your first role with the league?
The first 18 months I started to do the red cards and public liability, making sure every club had public liability. And then I got on to do fixture secretary, and then slowly but surely moved on.
Okay. And have you had other roles, other committee roles on the way up through those 11 years?
I've been involved in developing the website to get us where we are. Just as it was a big thing of mine, all this paperwork, books with red and yellow cards, and so it was easier to do spreadsheets, and then we realised we could bring it on more digital. So I worked quite hard on that with the backing of the committee at the time, and that's where we went, so I dragged them into the digital age.
Okay, and how long have you been chairman now? Is it 2 or 3 years, or is it longer than that?
It's 4 years.
4 years, Jesus, time flies when you're having fun. And what do you see as the hardest part of your role at the Leinster Senior League?
Probably the time. Like the team we have in there now are all good football people, very experienced ex-secretaries, most of them. So the running of the league isn't that difficult. I'm just like them. They're the orchestra, and I just feel the baton at them, and they're brilliant lads. So it's really the time for me. It's just because I'm self-employed.
Sure.
It's trying to manage the time, so I'm always there on a Monday and a Thursday. We try and get out to games on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's just that's the hardest bit for me, is trying to manage the time.
And do you try to get out to as many games as possible at the weekends?
I do, yeah, as much as I can. I've got, even this morning I was at the first half of Collinstown and Wayside under-19, seeing some smashing lads there, and then I went down to watch the Crumlin Bangor, the second half of the Crumlin Bangor senior division game.
Excellent. And obviously we'll be talking about that game a little bit later on the podcast as well. It was a brilliant game, I heard. What's the most enjoyable part of the role, Dev?
To see that the leagues develop and the clubs develop, and just, we're so organised about it, and everything is done properly, Derek, within the rules. And when you stick to the rules, we don't have a problem. And the rules are the same for everybody. And I think that's been one thing that a lot of the clubs say to me, and that's where I get my enjoyment, when they say everybody's treated the same. And, whether you're in Division 3 or you're in Senior Division. And that's the bit of pride I get out of it.
Right. And I think most people would agree under your stewardship over the last few years, the league has developed into obviously the largest and the strongest league in the country. What do you think, what other further improvements can be made going forward, do you think?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that we brought in, as in the player insurance, which we're going to discuss later on.
Sure.
We brought in, we grant aid to teams who play outside Leinster in the FAI Junior or the FAI Intermediate, because I obviously, as an ex-club man, know how much it costs to run a football club. So anything we can do to help the clubs minimise their debts and minimise their costs, we try and do. And with the sponsorship from Dublin Port that time, we actually paid that out in grants, travel grants to clubs from day one. So stuff like that. And again, we're going to get onto the insurance. That was another big bugbear with mine. Sure. As a secretary of St James's Gate. It was always the one big cost that worried me at the start of the season, but was always the one that was always paid, was your player insurance. So I was trying to take the pressure off the individuals who run football clubs by trying to make me honest on the players, but we'll come to that later on.
Sure. And just again, kind of sticking with yourself, obviously you've been recently elected onto the FAI board. What does, obviously that's extra work on top of your Leinster Senior League work. What does that work entail for you with the FAI?
And basically, it's an interim board. We're there for a year, and it's basically about change. It's to try and change the way things are done, the cultures. So we're in there now. It's been a lot of legal stuff over the last 3 months, and I know the fans out there are, giving out because it's so slow. But believe me, it's like a snowball going on the road. It's just going to get bigger and quicker as we move on. Look, you're changing the culture of a lifetime, and with the quality of the people, like the 4 new independent directors we have coming in. I don't know their names, by the way, because it's completely independent. To get that quality, it takes a bit of time. And that's why when they come in, the snowball will start rolling very quickly. So
how far are we into that board now? Are we 6 months in at the moment, or is it less than that?
No, we went in August. So
okay.
What's that? So it's less than 4 months. I know it seems like ages for me, because all I seem to do is go to meetings. But, we're getting there. We are getting there. And we've got some good lads on the board there who are driving this along with myself. So things will change very quickly over the next couple of months.
And are you optimistic about the future of the FAI? I know obviously some people over the last year there's been a lot going on, but are you personally optimistic about the future?
Well, I wouldn't have took it, Derek, if I thought it was a waste of space. To be honest with you, I'd have walked. Yes, I think once the 4 new independent directors come in, like even just a subtle change, like the players have a voice now. Shanks Huppel's on one of the committees. Stephen McGuinness from the PFLA is on another one. We've got 2 fans representatives who now have a voice at senior council, Tony Considine and Niamh. So them little changes will make a difference. They won't make a difference straight away, but they will make a difference going forward.
Okay, it's good to hear. And I'm sure people will be glad to hear that. Just kind of moving on to the reason why we asked you on today, Dave, around the LSL insurance, and I know you briefly touched on it already. It's a system where every player has to be insured to play in the league, and that wasn't the case in the past. And I think you alluded to that, where clubs would generally sort out their own insurance. And so, talk us through how the change came about to the new scheme that we have at the moment. I believe it's up and running since last year, isn't it? Last year was the first year. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're nearly 18 months into it, Derek. Basically, it was from my own club days. As I said to you, the worry for me every year was, are the players insured? Like, I personally didn't want a player getting injured and then finding out that, he's not going to get paid from work. He's out of work for 6 or 7 months. He loses his house because he can't pay his mortgage. Probably then loses his marriage and stuff like that. And for me as a club secretary and chairman at the time, I didn't want that on me, on my head. So I went out and spent $2,000 every year, whatever it was, on insurance. And it was just, when I got involved in Leinster Senior League, I realised all the other clubs are in the same boat. So it was an idea I had. I spoke to Liam Kelly, who used to be our intermediate representative manager. We were at a match one day. We're having a point, and I spoke to him about my concerns about it, and he said, why don't you go ahead and try and do it, Dave? And I said, yeah, but I want to bring it on. I want to get our players the best possible medical treatment as well as the best possible insurance for the right price. So he set up a meeting with Alan Bourne, the Irish team doctor, and Alan got it. 20 minutes into the conversation, I knew that Alan got where I was going with this. So over the course of it took me about 3 years, Derek, to get an insurance company involved, and then that insurance company, if you remember, the broker was First Ireland, but the insurance company was the least. They pulled over and just as we were over the line with it.
Right.
So yeah, that was very frustrating because I had it down. We had the price, we had the link with the Beacon Hospital through Dr. Alan Bourne. We had everything in place, and then Elite pulled our warrant. So I had to start all over again with the insurance, which was very frustrating. But you know what? We were so far down the road with the Beacon Hospital that I was never going to let it go anyway, Derek. I was going to go all the way with it. So eventually we got in touch with a company called JLT, who have since been bought by another company, so Marsh, I think they're called. So we were with JLT. They got me to deal with the insurance company, and we were up and running then. And it's brilliant in that what I wanted, Derek, was I wanted the player to take responsibility, so that when he went out and trained with any club in the LSL Senior League, and I mean just train at the start of the season, I'm insured. I have my receipt. It's on my phone. I'm insured.
Sure.
So no matter what happens, I'm covered. So that's what I wanted. And I wanted them then, if he signed for a club, no problem. He just signs for a club as normal. He's still covered. If he transfers to another LSL Senior League club, he's still covered. His insurance went with him. So every player knew exactly where he stood. So the only way to do that was to get the clubs to agree that it was mandatory. You had to be insured to play. And that was a big one for me. I wanted to take the onus off the club. Like we all know, Derek, there's clubs who are ran by 2 or 3 men or women, and they do everything.
Sure.
And the last thing they need is a player to get injured and to go, lads, I'm out of work for 9 months. Who's going to pay me mortgage? Who's going to pay me bills?
Exactly.
And that onus is on them 3 people, and that's not fair. So that's why I wanted the players to take it on. And in fairness, we had nearly 7,000 players registered last year. We're nearly up to that again this year. And they all do it. And it's only when you get injured, Derek, that you realise the benefits. Like I'd meet 1 or 2 of the players up in the Beacon, Derek. And, just purely I'd be in there for a meeting and I'd meet 1 or 2 lads. I'm not going to mention anybody's name, but they'd say, Davey, this is unbelievable. It's like a hotel. Like we walked in, we're seen by the doctor. We're getting a cup of coffee. We're sent up to our MRI. We're back down. We're getting our operation in 2 weeks' time. This is unbelievable. And I'm going, well, that's what you pay for, lads. That's why when I heard, look, we got it for €20 last year.
Which was very cheap.
It was, me and you know that, but you know yourself. When you were 18 or 19 or 20, you're invincible. You're never going to be hurt, and you won't need money. Should be no problem. Yeah. But unfortunately, that's not reality, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, so, definitely.
Look.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I know there was obviously a little bit of controversy when the price went up slightly this year, and it didn't go up a lot. But what I thought was great to see, there was a lot of lads who had actually benefited from the insurance last year. One that kind of jumps to mind is Brian Mooney, who's obviously out with Kilbarrack at the moment. He's the manager. He was playing with us last year, done his cruciate, and he availed of the insurance last year. And it was great to see him commenting when people were complaining about the price increase and saying, "Look, lads, without that insurance, I'd have been screwed. I wouldn't have got all the thousands of euros worth of treatment that I got, and it was excellent." And there was a lot of people like him, so it was great to see that the people coming out and defending the whole scheme last year.
Yeah. No, Brian. Obviously, I know Brian from his Bangor days, and I actually think he's back training now, isn't he? I think as far as
he is. Yeah, he played his first 45 minutes there last week.
Yeah, myself and Tony Dunn, who was involved in the league as well. Tony's been a brilliant help on this programme. We'd keep in touch, and the Beacon did let us know one of the players going back trying and stuff like that. And it's brilliant. And look, I understand, again, we're back to the same thing. Most players, when they go out, and of course you go out on the pitch, I'm never going to get injured. That's the last thing you think of when you walk across the white line, that I'm going to get injured. So, and I don't want you to think about that, because you have your receipt on your phone, you're covered. And everybody's bought into it. And as the years go by and the more and more people, unfortunately, have to use the treatment and the insurance, they recognise that 58 quid or whatever it's going to be is, it's well worth it. It's a no-brainer for me, but I do understand, and that's why we broke it down into 2 payments at the start of the season for the younger lads, because it's, for a lot of lads, it's a lot of money to pay out at the start of the season, 60 quid in a week or whatever it is.
Sure.
But so we broke it down over 2 payments, so you could pay, and then you'd have to pay 30 days later the second half of it, and that's had to be tweaked because some people didn't pay the second bit, so we had to get back on and say, lads, you need to pay the second bit. But that's what we're about, is to try and help as much as we can. And I have to say, look, it's a brilliant scheme, and I'm delighted to see that 1 or 2 other leagues have taken it up now as well. And for me, it's going to be something that I'd like to do in the FAI, is to get it countrywide for everybody, so every player can avail of it, boy or girl.
I've heard of, like you said, I've heard of other leagues bringing it on, but I think, it's kind of slow. It's a slow burner, but when they see the success that's happened with the Leinster Senior League in terms of getting everybody signed up to it, hopefully more leagues will come on board with it. The last question I had for you, Dave, was just around the level of coverage with it. I know, there's different levels of coverage with any insurance policy, and I know one of the lads online was asking recently around the cover for dental care if somebody kind of breaks their teeth is not as much as what it would be if you break your leg. Is there scope to look in the future at the different levels of coverage that comes with the policy?
Of course, and the bigger it grows, Derek, the more we have to go back at the insurance companies with, if we've got a bigger pool now. And like all insurance companies, like any good business, they have to try and make money as well. So the level of cover we have is just, it's one grade, that's it. There's no platinum, gold and bronze. Everybody's covered exactly the same. It's covered to 99% at the cost of any, so right up to your knee injuries and your bad ACLs and all that kind of stuff. So we're 99% covered in most medical injuries. Look, you're going to get the exception where it's something really, really serious, right?
Sure.
But remember, it has to be an accident. It can't be something that's underlying, that's been there before. So it has to be an accident, and it's an accident policy. So I think we've covered everything bar dental. I've looked at the dental. If you look at any policy, you're only covered to a certain amount in dental, because dental is a strange one in the pricing. The way, one dentist could charge one thing, another charge the other. So it seems to be a very grey area for insurance companies, and they'll only sort of give the basic 500 quid.
Sure.
So it is something we looked at last year, but we've only gone to Eldriscoll O'Neill and Aviva, so it is something that we'll discuss. Now, you might want to take out, there might be an extra payment if you want to increase your dental care for next year. If that's the way we go, well, that's the way we go. And maybe it's another thing that maybe our players, like you look at any of the contact sports, the GAA or the rugby, they all wear the gum shields. We don't, because soccer players just generally didn't. But, maybe it's an option. Maybe it's something down the road. Maybe the kids might start wearing them and it grow and grow. But it's a contact sport, and you know yourself, 40% of probably football is heading the ball, and yet we don't have gum shields.
Yeah.
So it's a bit strange, but that's just been what's happened, isn't it? That's the culture over the years. We didn't do the gum shields.
Sure. Look, Dave, it's been a pleasure to have you on today. Thanks a lot for taking the time to speak to us, and it'd be great to get you on at some stage again throughout the season. I'm sure we'll have loads of topics to talk about, so really appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much. No problem, Derek. Talk again. Okay, so that was Dave Moran of the Leinster Senior League, the chairman of the Leinster Senior League. Andy, what did you think of the interview with Dave?
Yeah, really interesting, actually. Obviously, Dave has been around the league quite a number of years now, as he said, and it's good to hear the satisfaction and the pride in his voice when he's talking about it. And look, in fairness to them, they have received a lot of criticism over the years, and they've taken it on board, and the introduction of the insurance, I think, is definitely a milestone in their sort of tenure, and Dave will sort of take credit for that, and that'll be something that'll be constantly spoken about during his period of time. That's one he can look back and say, yeah, well, I was there for that. And it was actually interesting to hear about the travel grants and the assistance for teams that are for that as well. That's something that I'd kind of only heard whispers about, but it's brilliant. Yeah. It's great for the league to be supporting their teams. Like, at the end of the day, all of the teams are members of the league, and it's great that the league are on board with it and they're willing to listen to the teams.
Yeah, big time. It was the first I'd heard about it as well, so it's great to see that level of support exists. Look, I'm sure it doesn't exist for every club. Like, it'd be more so if a club is struggling to get to somewhere like Donegal or something like that, and they don't have the funds to raise. But it's great to know that stuff like that exists. The insurance policy, Andy, I kind of alluded to it in the interview there. I was a little bit astounded when I seen lads complaining about look, lads are going to complain about cost increases on anything. I complain when car insurance goes up, but for the value you get in that insurance for such a small amount of money, I was surprised to see people complaining about it. What was your own opinion on that? Did you hear many complaints yourself?
Yeah, look, I'm in the unfortunate position that I look after the insurance in my club, so I know all the issues that every other club are facing, and every other player that has something to say about it. I 100% see where they're coming from, but at the same time, what I don't think players are definitely aware of are the costs that were to the clubs previously. The policies and the insurance premiums that were being put on individual clubs throughout the country were astounding. We were getting unbelievable quotes, and it was just crippling us. We had to pay a serious amount of money every single year. And when we heard this policy was coming in, we were 100% on board. Obviously, it puts the onus on the players, but what the players, I don't think, always see is when you break it down to the individual games, it works out for absolutely nothing per game. And I know I'd rather be covered for whatever it may be. And touch wood, I don't ever have to use it. But we had a player in the cup final last year, broke his leg, was out of work for a couple of weeks. Basically, premium cover was looked after. He got his operation, he got his rehab. He, I don't know exactly how it works, in a sense that thankfully I haven't gone through it myself, but he's covered for the few quid for when he's out of work, up to a certain amount. And then obviously he has to go through the social for the remaining amount and stuff like that. But it's all covered so that, as Dave mentioned there, which is the key for everyone, is you've got families at home, you've got mortgages to pay, you've got bills to pay. And it's just one of those things that I don't think the younger lads, it's mostly the younger lads, in fairness, and I don't mean to be ageist or anything, but they don't really see the bigger picture sometimes. They just see, the club wants, whatever it was, 70 quid or whatever. They don't realise what that's actually going to, you know what I mean? And I'm 100% behind it, and I wouldn't play without it. And what I'd say is to lads, just really have a look at the policy and what it covers, and then it speaks for itself. I don't think they actually look at what's being sent around, you know what I mean? What the policy is. So that would be my recommendation to anyone that is skeptical about it. Read what is actually covering you. And I don't think you really can have a complaint after that, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, like as I said, I've spoke to a couple of people who have availed of it, and like they say, those type of operations, especially when they're serious knee injuries and whatever, can cost upwards of $8,000 or so for the treatment on them, and to get that all paid for through the insurance for as little as, like you said, whatever it is, 50 or 60 quid. Is a no-brainer to me.
And to add to that as well, sorry, just very, very quickly, Derek, you're getting the service, like the Beacon Hospital there in Sandyford. Like, I don't think there's many better.
Big time.
I've heard absolutely brilliant reports, like Dave said, they're bumping into players. I've heard very few negative responses to it, and you've got one of the best services there available in the Beacon. So, this isn't me trying to plug it on behalf of the Leinster Senior League. This is me saying, just box clever, have the insurance. Obviously, you can't play now, but, you have to understand what you're actually being covered for,
Yeah, big time. I think it's a brilliant initiative, and I'd love to see more leagues take it on, and I know there's obviously other leagues who haven't organised it for themselves yet, but to make it compulsory for players, I think is a great idea. That look, if, like Dave said, it falls onto you. You're insured in yourself, and it's your responsibility to kind of do that. So I think it's a great initiative, and hopefully it'll continue to develop going forward. I'm conscious of time, Andy. We're constantly I'm constantly getting grief about going over the hour slot. So we're gonna try to keep it as close to an hour today as possible. We wanted to touch on the FAI Junior Cup draw, which was done. I think it was done just last week, but I'm not 100% sure. The FAI Junior Cup draw, there's always a bit of secrecy about it. It kind of gets released in dribs and drabs, and people don't know when the draw was done. It's one of those competitions that could do with having live draws online. And letting everybody see them, but for some reason that doesn't happen. But I've gone through the draw and just picking out the teams from the Leinster Senior League who are still involved. You've Trim Celtic or Transport against Avenue United from Clare. They're a big side from Clare. Sheriff or Kilmore. As I said, Sheriff knocked out of the LFA Junior Cup today, still in the FAI Junior. Last season's beaten finalists there. Either Sheriff or Kilmore home to Salthill, Devon. But that's a big game, Sheriff Kilmore in itself. So be interesting to see how that one pans out. Other ones, Westport United, who are a really good side, against Balscadden or Liffey Wanderers. Obviously, Liffey's as a club, former champions, recent champions, but that's their Saturday side. Obviously, that will be playing in the Junior Cup this year. You also have, what have you got? You've at Lunkard Villa versus Cooney United or Finglas. It says on here Finglas Celtic, but I don't think Finglas Celtic have a senior team, so I'm presuming that's Finglas United and somebody's made a mistake with it, because I'm nearly sure the Finglas Celtic don't actually have a senior team, so it must be Finglas United. You also have Garda or St John Bosco against Fermoy. You have Shannon Hibbs against Beach Park or Dunshaughlin Utes or Tulka Rover, so a few third round games, it seems, still to be played there. You've St John Bosco against Glentoran Celtic, Rush Athletic against Dublin Celtic from the AUL or Rathkeel from the Limerick Desmond League. You've Oliver Bond Celtic against Castlereagh, VEC FC from the UCFL. A lot of letters there. VEC FC from the United Churches Football League against Rosemount Mulvey, or Rosemount Mulvey against Buncrana Harps. You have Arthur Griffith Park or Drumcondra versus Ferrybank, should I say. Cockhill Celtic, big intermediate side, so I presume this is their junior side, against Usher Celtic. So a trip up to where are Cockhill based out of, Andy? I know you've potentially been up there before. Is it?
It's Donegal, is it?
Donegal, is it? Yeah. So a long trip for Usher there. You've Crumlin United Saturday side against Cahir Park, so that's a Tipperary South League team, and then you also have Killarney Celtic from Kerry against St Kevin's Boys, and then I think the last team involved from the Leinster Senior League is Skerries Town, who are away to Carrigaline or Bohemians. I think that's Bohemians of Waterford. If I've missed anybody out there, forgive me. There's a lot of kind of toys, and I may have missed a team there. But obviously the kind of big ones that jump out for me is Sheriff against Kilmore. Obviously is a fourth round clash. That's a big one against Salthill Devon in Galway. That'll be a big one. Actually, I'm just looking at this draw now. St John Bosco seem to be in it twice, which is a bit strange. I'm guessing that's a mistake as well. You have Garda or St John Bosco against Fermoy, but then in another fixture you have St John Bosco against Glentoran Celtic. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah,
but
it's a
maybe
good spot, actually. Yeah.
I know in the past, I don't think you're allowed to submit two teams into the Junior Cup. I could be wrong on that, but
yeah, maybe if someone wants to let us know.
Someone can clarify on that. Yeah, but any others that jump out for you, Andy, in there?
Yeah, just I always throw an eye over Rosemount Mulvey because I know a lot of the lads involved down there, and they've been brilliant over the last couple of years, and I think they'll probably continue to do well. And look, you always kind of run towards the Crumlin as well, like fantastic Saturday side over the years, so they'll be strong enough again. But there's good representatives from the Leinster Senior League there. I think, you'll probably see a lot of them progress through to the next round. Well, hopefully.
Yeah, please God. All of those toys are due to be played on or before December 1st. I also wanted to touch on, Andy, because I'm not 100% sure on this, but I stuck a tweet out during the week and hashtagged it's Road to the Aviva, and a few people contacted me and said, are you sure that the finals are on the Aviva this year, because you have the Euros on in June, and that's normally when the intermediate and junior finals are on in around June time. So have you heard anything about that, Andy? It's a valid point. I'm not sure if it's going to be on this year.
It's a very valid point, and to be honest with you, a bit of egg on my face from last week's podcast, because I was saying how it's the holy grail for everyone, and it adds to the competition. And now, to be honest with you, it's a very, very valid point. And I know obviously John Delaney was a big advocate of getting it into the Aviva, and obviously now with that situation, I'm not too sure who's going to be pushing that agenda. So I hope for everyone involved it's still in the Aviva, because as I said last week, it does add to an already special cup. And look, again, it's not going to stop people wanting to win it, but it just adds to the little bit of a special day out for everybody involved in the clubs.
Oh, big time! Like, I think since they moved the final back in, I think it was when they moved, it was 2013. I think it was the first time they had the finals there for the junior. I'm not sure if the intermediate was there that year, but it was definitely for the junior, and it's just increased the kind of profile of those tournaments. And like you say, it's a pinnacle for any player looking to kind of play in the national stadium. So I hope they do find a way of, whether it's by playing a few of the rounds a little bit earlier and getting the finals on in June. And there's no guarantee that can happen after, look what happened last year with the protests that went in and that delayed the final, etc. But that was in the junior. In the intermediate, obviously it went ahead. But it would be a shame if it's not on there. So whether it's a case of playing a few of the rounds a little bit earlier and getting it on in May, perhaps might be the option there. I'm sure, like, at the moment, there's obviously a lot going on with the FAI. And I think I agree with what you said. I've heard before that it was John Delaney that was the driver behind getting the junior and the intermediate final in the Aviva. So now that he's gone, will somebody pick up that mantle and start pushing for that again? We can only hope so.
Yeah, fingers crossed. As I said, it's what everybody looks towards. So hopefully everyone has their day out.
Right, so there was another interview I did with Dave Lawlor, the registrar of the Leinster Senior League. Spoke to him a little bit earlier on this evening. Dave was talking about the transfer window, which is coming up, starts on December 1st. So we'll have a quick listen to that, and then we'll talk about that afterwards. Dave Lawlor, registrar with the Leinster Senior League. Welcome along to the podcast today, Dave.
Good evening, Derek.
So Dave, we've asked you on today to discuss the upcoming Leinster Senior League transfer window. So tell us a little bit, Dave. When does the window open?
Well, the window opens on Sunday, the 4th of December, and it lasts until the 31st of January. There's quite a few procedures to follow for this window, and I'll go through them here with you now. And Perfect. Any questions you have for me, I'll answer for you.
Brilliant.
The first thing, Derek, is if a player is transferred from another league, you have to bring the filled-in form to that league to be signed and stamped with the appropriate fee of €30. An internal Leinster Senior League to Leinster Senior League 1, the fee is €25, and it's done by email, which we handle. There's another issue as regards outside. You have the Electricity League, the KDFL, the NEFL, and the Amateur League over 35s. So their season finishes officially on the 30th of November. So from the 4th of December, they're free agents, so they do not require transfer forms.
Okay. So anybody coming from those leagues doesn't need to adhere to the normal procedure of paying the transfer fee and having those forms submitted.
That's correct. Now, there is another stipulation as regards the Electricity League. If a player signs from the Electricity League, they have to be regraded if they want to play junior football, which is done by the FAI domestic department. And if they're on a professional contract, they need to be reinstated from professional to amateur status.
Just a quick question on that there. Does that also apply to intermediate as well? So you mentioned regraded to junior, but if they're coming from...
No.
Oh, okay.
If a player played League of Ireland in the last season, it doesn't count. And intermediate football is more or less classed as the same standard.
Okay.
You know, the way we play in the Intermediate Cup and the FAI Senior Cup. It's only the regrading. The regrading is only for junior if you're going into our junior divisions.
Good to know. Are there any other kind of things that managers and clubs need to be aware of?
Yeah, one of the most important things at the moment now is if you're signing a player that last played outside the Republic of Ireland, they require an ITC, which is an international clearance, transfer clearance, and it can be only requested by email from the FAI. You give the player's details, name and address, date of birth, and the club he was last registered with, and that's sent to itc@fai.ie, and the club must copy that to our league, which is to lencersenior15@gmail.com. So that we have a record of your request to the FAI. But before sending in this ITC email, the player must be registered with your club on FAI.net.
Okay, and I know from personal experience, Dave, working with clubs, that the kind of standard turnaround time of that is around 30 days. Is that right?
It's around 30 days from the time of receipt, from the time the FAI received that.
Right.
So it's normally 30 days. From that, and as you say, you can only start doing that from the 4th of December.
Okay.
The window, the open window applies to that as well on the 4th of December.
Okay, excellent. And is there anything else that we should be aware of, just around time frames?
Yeah, just another couple of things. A player signing or being transferred on the 4th of December, the playing rule applies. He's not eligible to play until the 3rd of December. That one clear day still applies. If you're registered on the 4th, or you're transferred on the 4th of December, you cannot play a game the next day. You have to wait a clear day, and that would be the 3rd of December.
Okay. Dave, is there a kind of a common mistake that not everybody makes, but a common mistake that you see kind of time and time again with transfers that people should be aware of?
Well, the one thing is that, you know, it hasn't happened too much this season, but a lot of clubs bring the transfer form to us in the old way without getting the other league to stamp it first. We can't process transfer forms that haven't been stamped and a receipt given that the fee has been paid. That's the most important thing. You go to the league that this player is leaving, this club that he's leaving first. That's the external transfers. We don't have any problems mainly with our own internal ones. It's basically the external ones where if you come in without getting the other league to stamp and approve it first, we cannot process it.
Okay, and I'm sure, Dave, if anybody has any issues, they can reach out to you directly as well if they have any questions. Is that right?
Yeah. There's if anyone's unsure, you just contact either myself or Pat Kiernan, our secretary, and we'll sort it out. Just another couple of things, Jerry. The transfer window, as you say, opened on the 4th, finishes on the 31st, but you can still register unattached players up until the 31st of March 2020.
Okay, so opens on the 4th, it finishes on the 31st of January, is that right, Dave? Yeah?
That's right, yeah.
And then unattached players up until March.
Unattached players can still register with the league up until the 31st of March. There's just one other thing, Derek, when you're getting your transfer sanctioned, that the onus is on the club secretary who's handling the transfer form to make sure there's no outstanding issues, such as suspensions or fines outstanding.
Okay.
You know, he must be 100% certain that the player who's coming from another league is free of all fines or suspensions.
And is the best way to do that, Dave, by contacting the other league's registrar or secretary?
Yes, when they're applying for the transfer, just ask the simple question: is there any outstanding issues with this player?
Okay, excellent.
And he should be given that. He should be given that information from wherever league he's coming from into our league.
That's brilliant, Dave. Listen, look, thanks very much for coming on today. Hopefully that information will be beneficial to clubs, and we'll have a kind of a hassle-free transfer window. So thanks so much for the information, and really appreciate you coming on.
Great stuff, and talk to you again soon.
Cheers, Dave. Bye-bye. Okay, that was Dave Lawlor from the Leinster Senior League, the registrar of the Leinster Senior League. I always look forward to transfer season, Andy, because it's always throws up a few surprises. Players moving from club to club, and obviously some players coming down from League of Ireland clubs as well. So have Bluebell got a big transfer season planned?
I hope so, Derek. I hope so. I know, in fairness, look, it happens every year, as you say. You don't really know what to expect, because what happens is you target individuals, and then what happens is someone comes out completely out of the blue. Someone that wants to drop down from League of Ireland that you wouldn't have expected, and this is not just with Bluebell, this is across the league. You see transfers and you say to yourself, Jesus, if I knew he was available, I would have made that phone call. And I'd say managers around the leagues are kicking themselves when they see somebody signing for whoever it may be. And it is a bit of in amateur football, it can make or break you, these windows, because if you're doing well, it's easier to attract. But if you're sort of struggling in the league and you've nothing to play for, it's very easy for the lads to kind of jump ship. And you do see teams year on year sort of suffering after Christmas as a result of the transfer, especially if managers leave and they go somewhere else. They could take a few of their key players with them, you know what I mean? It was good to hear Doc there talk about some of the sort of common mistakes within the transfer windows, and hopefully that sort of information that we're getting out there is something that might help a club secretary or somebody out there that'll sort of just really help them with the rules, basically, and the key he said there was, if you're unsure, ask the question. And that's where I think a lot of people will make assumptions. Yeah. And you go, oh yeah, no, that's fine, this player can do this, or all we have to do is send this form, and it's just delaying the process. It's happened ourselves. Look, we've sent in the wrong form, or we've sent it to the wrong person, or it hasn't been signed, or whatever. And it's just delaying the whole thing, and the player might miss the first game in the window. And as Doc says, it needs a day to clear. You might be rushing to get that player in for the Saturday or Sunday and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's just good information to have for everybody. Yeah, I think the key one that stands out for me is the ITC. It's a pain in the ass for any club. If you've got a lad who's been over in Australia or anything like that playing, and then you have to wait the 30 days potentially for that to come through. We had a similar case that recently ourselves at Cabarrick, where we were waiting for 30 days with a great player ready to play, but he couldn't because he hadn't got his ITC. So it's one that clubs need to be really careful of, because nowadays lads always, even if they've played a couple of games for a team over in England or whatever it may be, if they haven't got that ITC and they get caught in it, it's bad news. So and on that, Derek, I think as well, just it's probably fair to shout out that that isn't an Leinster Senior League rule, as far as I know. That's like an FAI or an international clearance. Yeah, it's a FIFA rule. Exactly. So there's a lot of sort of bad press on the league sometimes when it's taken so much of a delay. We've had the same scenario, and you're saying to yourself, Jesus, it's just a matter of someone sending an email or signing or stamping or whatever it may be. But those rules are in place for, obviously, for some reason, for some contingency across the leagues. But it's just one of those things that is very frustrating when you've got a player that's available to play or should be available to play, and he has to wait a month to clear, and often longer.
Yeah, I think the rule exists. The way I understand it, I've done a lot of digging on this down through the years. It exists for for professional footballers to stop them kind of moving from multiple kind of countries and signing for multiple clubs. And for some reason, some genius thought it should be applicable to amateur football as well. And I think it's probably a little bit of an overkill rule, especially, like I said, if there's lads over just kind of playing over in Australia and then they come back home, they're not playing professional football. I understand it if they were playing professional football and then they were coming back and needed to be regraded perhaps, but for lads who've literally just played amateur football in one country and then amateur in another, it makes no sense. But look, I could talk about that all year and I won't. But it's one of those ones you have to be kind of aware of. Just to kind of finish up the show, Andy, we said we'd give a couple of shout outs to clubs. I wanted to mention, and I have this written down somewhere, Baldoyle United, obviously, who had a great win today against Sheriff in the Leinster Junior Cup. Some people may have seen online, if you watch Fair City, I don't. But on a recent episode, there's a football team in Fair City, and they mentioned that Baldoyle had cheated against them in a cup game or something like that. So lo and behold, they've organised a friendly game between Baldoyle United and the cast and crew of Fair City. It's in aid of St Michael's House, and it's on down in Brookstone Road on the 23rd of November at 2 p.m. It's all for a good cause, so go down and you'll see some of the stars, shall we call them, of Fair City playing on the day. So I wanted to give them a shout out for that, and also for Baldoyle United as well. They also, this kind of flew under the radar during the Unite the Union Cup, Linfield against Dundalk. Baldoyle were also awarded the Unite the Union Community Club Award. I'm not sure what kind of went into them winning that, but I noticed that online that they'd been awarded that kind of accolade. So just a shout out for them for that. You had something as well, Andy, with was it the St Mary's kids with the FAI?
Yeah. Non LSL related, but just very quickly, just sent out a tweet there last week where my old club, my schoolboy club, Sandyford St Mary's, were involved in the subsidised tickets with the FAI, and unfortunately they just weren't allocated due to an administration thing within the FAI. But in fairness to Noel Mooney, someone tagged on my tweet and he produced the goods for the lads. So the kids are on the bus tomorrow to go to that game. So hopefully they'll enjoy themselves, and there's a few future fans for them there.
Excellent, and fair, like you say, fair play to Noel Mooney. He seems very open to people contacting him on Twitter, and
he's very active.
As I said the last week's show, I'm hoping to get Noel on to this show quite soon, if time permits him. I know he's really busy at the moment with all that's going on with the FAI, so I'll hope to get him on soon. The last thing I just wanted to mention, and a shameless plug for Cabarrach United, we have our annual car draw each year. It's £100 a ticket, but you can in with a chance of winning a Toyota Yaris, and you can buy those tickets on our website. Maybe go in with a few lads from work. £100 for a ticket. My dad won it last year, actually, and it wasn't a fix, although I've been accused of fixing it. I wasn't there on the night. I didn't do the draw, but my dad won it last year, so I don't think there's any hope of anybody from my family winning it this year. But it's a great prize.
You've ran out of luck.
yeah.
Just on that though as well, Derek, it's coming up to the Christmas season as well, and I see the likes of Sacred Heart, Fairhouse Clover have their Christmas draw already advertised. So
brilliant.
The stuff like that, if anyone has any draws or anything like that coming up over the next couple of weeks, just give us a tag or send it on to us, and we'll give you a shout out in each.
Definitely. I think it's imperative that people get in touch with us to keep this podcast going, to keep the content fresh. So do let us know if we can give you a shout out, and if you have any events coming up or anything you just want us to touch on the podcast. Like I said, Andy, I'm conscious we've most likely gone over time again, well over time, but we will endeavour to try keep these podcasts to less than an hour. Sometimes it's difficult. We tend to kind of ramble on a little bit.
We're still learning.
We're still learning. It's still early days yet, and we will get the hang of all of this. The original plan, as I said, Andy, was to do one of these every 2 weeks. I know we've done one each week now, and we'll probably do one again next week. But look, we don't want to commit ourselves to doing it every week. We'll see how it's kind of received by people. If they're enjoying it, we might keep doing them every week. We'll see how it goes.
And again, to reiterate what you've said, is that it really depends on the content that's being provided to us. We're happy to discuss whatever. So if you have a topic that we want to discuss, or there's a typical league that you want to talk about, like obviously we've gone through the intermediate section this week. Next week we can go through some of the lower leagues. Just give us a shout out, and we'll look at that, and we'll investigate and see what we can talk about.
Definitely. Andy, thanks for your company again tonight, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. But yeah, hopefully everybody enjoys the show, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks very much.